Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Motability Show, Purple Changemaker edition or series or whatever I'm labeling it. We're rolling with it. But most importantly, I've got a dear friend and co-conspirator, David Veal. And yeah, good to have you back on the pod, mate.
Thanks, Martin. Yeah, really glad to be here on the podcast. And I've never been described as a co-conspirator before, but I like it. I like it. I might bank that one.
Definitely, definitely. And we have been causing trouble lately. We've been
Yeah.
making good trouble, but making waves.
Yeah. I mean, as Bob Marley said, stirring it up. Having.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. So we've got a lot to get into. So one thing I was saying to you, David, before was I've been working up in the background. Purple Changemakers has been a year or two of my personal content, really. And a lot of that's been what I get up to as a change maker.
Mm.
But I've always been very passionate about encouraging and empowering other change makers. And so I've just been playing around a bit with like a playbook with some sort of pillars, but essentially it's just stuff I've learned over nearly 20 years of what I've been up to. And so to give the listeners a quick insight, there's five parts. It spells VERIS, which I'll be completely honest, ChatGPT told me had Latin roots in the word for spring and growth. So I'm rolling with the poetic metaphor. But it's vision, execution, resilience, influence, and sustainability. Now, we're not going to go into the theory and the academic side much now, but I just wanted to A, put out that's something I've been working on, and B, we are going to use it as a bit of a guide to your story and what you're doing as founder, CEO at Open Road Access, because it just does give a structure for people to follow and for us to kind of use. But we're going to go off on all sorts of tangents as well. I'm convinced of it. But just to kick off, could you, for anyone that hasn't come across you, the Raised by Wolves backstory, it'd be just great to hear a bit about you and how you've come to be founder CEO of Aura.
Yeah, of course, and yeah, I love the framework or the playbook as you described it. I think you're kind of it's music to the ears of an ex-consultant when we start talking about playbooks. And yeah, I think there's not speaking a word or a couple of words of Latin. I think there's something quite magical about Latin's use in really clear quips and metaphors. So I love it. I think it's brilliant. So yeah, keen to explore that. Yeah, so my story. It's funny you said raised by wolves. That's quite Latin as well, isn't it? The Romulus and Remulus.
Great, great.
Anyway, sorry,
I
I'm going on a
love
tangent.
that.
You said we would.
Let's keep
You
the
said
dots
we
joining.
would. Yeah, so my story. Well, I suppose to start with the present, actually, what I'm doing now. So yeah, I am the founder of Aura, which is ORA, short for Open Road Access. And we are building an accessible transport platform, essentially, starting with providing people access to adapted and accessible vehicles for kind of short periods of time and flexible periods of time for those people that aren't eligible for the Motability scheme, which I'm sure we'll touch on today as part of
Yeah.
my story. And who also aren't in a position where they want to commit to owning one of these vehicles for a long time, but they do need one. So yeah, loving that, and let's talk more about that today. How did I get to that? Well, as you and I have spoken about before, growing up, my father had MS, which, as happens with MS, seriously impacted his mobility. And yeah, from that, I really saw how restrictive transport is and can be for disabled people. And maybe we'll get into the social model and various barriers on this chat as well. But that was whoa, this is a major barrier, you know.
Yeah.
we then, as a family, we got a Motability car. We actually got a Motability wheelchair accessible vehicle.
Mhm.
And it was just like amazing. It just completely opened things up for us. Had incredible experiences with the Motability scheme. So yeah, I saw the barriers, but then I also saw, hold on, there are solutions out there. There are things
Mhm.
that make a real difference, as they did for me and my brother and my mum and my dad. I suppose then kind of continued to grow up, had other family members that were disabled, in particular elderly family members. And I really saw again for those people, those relatives and friends, that transport was just a huge barrier. And if you're not eligible for Motability, there are very limited options out there. They're unreliable and they're expensive, at best, I think, if we're being honest. So I suppose I'm just piecing the puzzle together. Ended up working for Motability when I graduated. In part because I'd had such a good experience with them as a child growing up, and then also in part because they're a really impressive company and they had an amazing grad scheme. I joined. From there, I went into consulting, as I mentioned, got into playbooks and frameworks and all of it, but all in the
Latin.
Latin. No Latin there, no Latin there. Or maybe not. No, I don't think so. Although I wouldn't put it past KPMG, to be honest with you. I say that as a compliment. So yeah, continue just getting deeper into transport tech, mobility, innovation. I think that's when you and I first met on the
Yeah,
first podcast that we did together, wasn't
that's
it?
right.
Just since then, I mean, you published an article on your website that I wrote, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago, maybe
Yeah.
more ago. God, that's scary. Where I set out, look, transport is a barrier for disabled people. But on the other side of the coin, there's all of this technology. It's called future
Mhm.
mobility, these trends, AI, autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles, connected vehicles. And just, I suppose, the hypothesis that was born then was there is a way to solve some of these barriers around transport, the inaccessibility of transport, by using this amazing kind of tidal wave of technology we're seeing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I've just spent the subsequent years playing with that. We've spoken about it a lot, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of led to, I suppose, where I started the story about Aura and what we're trying to do today.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks for sharing, David. And yeah, as you say, that memory lane, particularly when you and I first connected, you were obviously kind of gathering thoughts of all you've just described prior, and things were starting to click. And yeah, that was got to be, it was before the pandemic for sure. And then I think the last podcast we did, was it? Yeah, it might have been 2 years ago now.
Somewhere in
Up in
between.
up
Yeah,
in Chester, wasn't it? And
yeah,
so
yeah.
that was when Aura was sort of, it began and there were things happening. But I think it's fair to say the last year, even sort of from 2025, like Jan to
Mm.
now, it's really motoring as well. So I mean, I guess maybe on the Aura side, just gives a little bit about the beginnings and the early days, whatever feels relevant, whatever you care to share. It'd be nice to give people a little bit of that founding part of Aura specifically.
Yeah, of course. So, yeah, there are two phases to it, as you kind of articulated then. Aura as a company, as it is today,
Yeah.
uh, I forgot this, but I looked on Company's House recently, and I registered it as a company on Christmas Eve 2024. So it's
Wow.
kind of just over half a year old, I suppose,
Yeah.
in its existence as an entity. That being said, there was a lot of work that had gone on for the kind of year or so before that in terms of testing, learning, refining. And actually, a really key part of that was working with you and your team at Purple Go right at the start, where we had these ideas. We knew we wanted to create prototypes, product services in the kind of accessible transport space. But we didn't want to do that in isolation. And we wanted to speak to people, speak to wheelchair users, speak to their families, speak to disabled people, the community more broadly. And you and the team, Dom, Josie, Harriet, and Luke. I'm going to forget them, but the amazing team you've got at Purple Go
Yeah.
did that research for us. We did roundtables, focus groups, and we just learned so much. Where are the pain points? What's needed? What's
Mm,
going to be a really viable, valuable product?
yeah.
So we did that, and then we basically launched a prototype that we tested over the subsequent months, I suppose, leading up to the kind of start of this year. And we just got so much amazing feedback. We've got quite a lot of it on our Trustpilot. And yeah, I think we're 4.8, 4.9 stars, 100 and well over 100 reviews on there now.
Nice.
And we were just getting all this feedback, but speaking to customers. And from that, we just learned a lot. We've refined what we're doing. And I think that's where we are. But it still feels like we're just at the start, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
the potential, and we can drill a bit into that sort of accessibility transport gap as well in a moment. I know you've been a big part of driving that conversation really over the years. But yeah, the potential of it is so big for Aura, but not just more broadly for the industry. It's like the potential so big. I agree, it's still very early days, really. I was going to say as well that I had a call with someone this morning and they've got an idea. It's not in the transport space, it's in a different area. But like, idea, beautiful, like some of the plans, lovely. But like your point about listening to the end user, and particularly when it comes to disability, because as we know historically, policy and product service innovation rarely do entities say, let's ask disabled people what their needs and wants are as a customer. It's always been a medically charity sort of model of just doing it and then saying, here you are, disabled people, we've done this over there, and this is what we've done for you, but not with you. And I
Mm.
think as a disabled person, it's so progressive that more and more people are saying, well, yeah, let's listen to disabled people as the co-creation side. But from a business point, it's the only way. Like, you can't build something without testing with those that are going to use it in the early days. So I think huge kudos to you. And also, it's common sense and it shows the benefits show themselves, right?
Mm. Yeah, exactly. There's the two sides to it. Obviously, it's the kind of just the right thing to do, you
Yeah.
know. If you're creating product services, systems to involve the people that are going to be the ultimate kind of users of those products or services. But as
Hmm.
you say, it's just such common sense from a business perspective.
Yeah.
You want to create something that works and scales.
Yeah.
To ask people how it feels, what could be improved, all the rest of it. So
Yeah, because those insights meant you didn't go off down five dead ends before getting the insight. You
yeah.
got the insight and then headed off in a direction. And we all know there's pivots and there's tweaks and there's whatevers. But the fact is you knew you had a compass from the end user, right?
I like that. I mean, I'm really thinking about your playbook here on the cover of this. Sorry if I preempted where you were going with it, but
I was going to say, let's take a trip through VERIS.
that's like, yeah, I can definitely see that. I mean, the execution, I know it's the second letter of the E, but the execution point, as you were talking about, it's all well and good having a plan, a strategy, a beautiful vision, beautiful slide deck. Says someone that's made a lot of slide
Yeah.
decks. Like,
No, totally. I mean, and I think obviously I'm playing around with this various thing, and it's just that a framework is a map, isn't it? It sort of gives
yeah.
a metaphor and a way to handle things, but it definitely it doesn't always have to be chronological or in particular orders as well. But for the sake of the spelling of the word, I mean, I feel like vision, you've sort of intimated a bit, but like how would you say your vision for Aura is at the moment?
I mean, it's as simple as saying transport is an enabler and not a barrier for disabled
Yeah.
people and elderly people and their families, you know, and that kind
And
of
can you speak a bit more to that? That we mentioned a minute ago, that accessibility transport gap. I know you and
yeah.
I have said it a few times, but there'll be new people here today that won't have come across it.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, the transport accessibility gap, in short, is that disabled people take 38% less trips than non-disabled people.
Yeah.
Um, a large proportion of that gap being not through choice, through lack of options, effectively.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it was something I think actually in the article you published that I'd wrote all those years ago, I spoke about that number,
Mm.
but was really fortunate. It was my last big project while I was at KPMG.
Mm.
Worked with the Motability Foundation
Yeah.
uh, and a team led by Catherine Maris, who obviously you know well,
Yeah.
who is now partnerships and policy director at Aura. But
Mm.
Catherine commissioned this piece of research from KPMG, looking into the transport accessibility gap in more detail and really unpacking the impact of it if that gap were to be closed. And
Mm.
collectively, kind of the KPMG team, the Motability Foundation team, we did some really groundbreaking research on that that showed that if the gap were closed, or the proportion of the gap was closed that could be
Yeah.
by lack of options or the creating options, that would generate in the region of 74 billion pounds socioeconomic value each
Mm.
year to the UK. So
Mm.
like it's significant. It's kind of huge scale here, huge numbers here. I know you talk about it very eloquently with Purple Goat in terms of the purple pound, which
Mm.
when it was last calculated, it was nearly 300 billion, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah,
But
absolutely. I don't know if there's been a re-research or a recalculation, but yeah, I
mm,
mean it's a lot of money, isn't it? Yeah.
exactly, and the scales of the number of people involved. Again, it's at least 14 million disabled people in the UK.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know when that was most recently calculated, but there's a lot of scale here and a lot of potential impact.
Yeah. And I think
So,
it's very often the case, because obviously transports are focused more so, but
mm,
like any industry, it's this kind of disabled people are excluded by different reasons, different barriers. And as a result, a cost, inverted commas, to the economy and a
mm,
lack of potential being realized both on an individual level and on a sort of macro, productivity, tax revenue
mm,
level. And it's when you hear the general narrative in the UK and more Western economies is like sort of growth is stagnant, productivity is not where it needs to be on a
mm,
pure economic side, and the political divisive narrative that's been kind of spitting out as a result. But come back to what we're talking about with transport, it's like just join a few dots more cleverly, include people where there's lots of low-hanging fruit here as well. And suddenly you've got government savings and more productivity and more tax revenue. And so it's not to say just transport would, for disabled people, would solve everything for a government, but you can see how this type of example built up in different sectors, it'd be so easy to address it and to create much better opportunities, which I know fundamentally is what you're doing at Aura. But it's just frustrating that the existing like companies and governmental policies don't see it and just don't get it or can't act on it for whatever reason. But it's not really a direct question, but feel free to respond to that if there's anything jump into your mind.
yeah. I mean, there's we could be here all day, couldn't we?
Yeah.
And I suppose that speaks to our passion about the opportunity and the subject matter. But yeah, that everything you described, access to work, access to education, access to social things, and spending money in the economy,
Mhm.
like more often than not, transport is the thing in the middle
But
of
it
that.
is a big pivotal one
Yeah,
actually that does connect with a lot of other parts. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
from that vision point, like obviously you and I and others as well, it's great to see the macro and even get a bit philosophical or whatever. But like where so with that gap, with that opportunity to solve that gap, where do you see Aura? How big a part is Aura in the vision gonna play, and how much have you sort of said, well, we're not doing that. We're just doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I really yeah, really like the question and the framing of it within the context, you know. So we've got quite a clear view around our kind of mission here.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's time bound. So we want to be enabling 15 million trips a year
Hmm.
by 2030, which is ambitious on the one hand because that's a lot of trips, you know, to enable from effectively a standing start. But within the context of all those trips not being taken, it's actually a very small percentage,
Mm-hmm.
very percentage. And one of the reasons we've picked that as our, I suppose, North Star metric on our kind of scale and our impact is because it was number of, remember right at the start when I was talking about the transport accessibility gap is around
Yeah.
people taking 38% less trips.
Yeah.
So it's the trips metric and measure that we used in that 74 billion
Yeah. So
analysis.
it's got connection to that larger piece of work and study.
Yeah, exactly. And you can have a straight line in the impact. Well, if that's
Yeah.
50 million trips, well, that is based on this kind of certified KPMG and Motability Foundation
Yeah. Yeah.
economic research,
Yeah.
that would deliver significant socioeconomic benefit
Yeah.
across the country.
Yeah. And I think, maybe as a takeaway for others listening with whatever their making change in. It's that there's the vision of linking it to something big in the world that needs addressing, having clarity of the impact you, as David and you, plural, as Aura, can have, and also the self-awareness that you can't be everything to everyone and do everything all the time. I think that's probably quite a important thing for social entrepreneurs to remember, particularly when it's not just a business of like selling widgets, but it is the social mission so important and passionate. And we'll come on to resilience and sustainability, but that's the risk is like you can overstretch yourself basically.
100%. And I think, there's a tension between the two.
Exactly.
But like, I think tension's often used as a bad word. I don't. The right amount of tension is not
Yeah.
like forgive me with my analogy, but like a guitar string or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There has to be tension for it to sing,
Play
right?
beautiful music. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Bob Marley or whatever else. So yeah, I think there is a tension between the two. And as a kind of early stage founder, I think that is a really common thing that you're always balancing. I mean, we're a really passionate team here behind Aura.
Mm,
From kind of everyone's got impressive backgrounds,
yeah.
work incredibly hard, worked at scale, right? And
Mm,
that's the reason we're doing this. It's because we see the opportunity, we see the vision, and we're balancing that with we are just getting started. We're at the
yeah.
start of our journey, and there's often it's just around finding the next lily pad. It's taking
Yeah.
the step where you learn the next thing and then you can keep going. But it's part of the fun, right?
It is. It is. Yeah. But I think in the end, that vision, as we said, the elements as you move forward can like tweak and change and alter. But ideally, that vision, that North Star you spoke to, is pretty unwavering. That's like the line in the sand, isn't it? So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, slight tangent. As we've been testing ourselves and our vision and our mission, we've been looking around and other kind of organisations to take inspiration from. And
Yeah.
the one I always come back to is the NHS, and it was Bevan. Oh God, now you're testing me. A while ago, a good. It was yeah, it was around the kind of interwar period, wasn't it? When Bevan created the NHS,
Yeah.
he set out the mission free at the point of service to all who need it, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
or some version of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just it shows the power of a vision, right?
Yeah.
The NHS is still here. It's got through a lot of
Yeah.
challenge, still getting through challenge, but it's still here and it's still going.
Yeah. The
And,
power of that vision.
and I would attribute a part of that being to the power of the vision.
Yeah. I
So
love that.
yeah, I think it's easy to get lost in the kind of esoteric and the conceptual with some of this stuff, but there's a
Yeah.
real tangible impact of it if you get it right.
Yeah. I've been trying to like throw in some Latin just randomly. And I remember Tottenham, as you know, is my football team.
I do
It's
indeed.
Order es facere. Forgive me for mispronouncing that badly, I'm sure. But to dare is to do. And there's something around that there as well.
I
So
really like
that's
that.
just me shoehorning Latin and Tottenham into the conversation.
Nice, nice. I like that. I like that. Even if we do go on a tangent talking about Tottenham.
Yeah. All right. I'm so we're gonna get what I'm gonna suggest is we'll skip through the other four where just give the first thought from from you and Aura's lived experiences that comes to mind on each of them. But we'll do a bit of a like quick fire round on the other four. And honestly we've touched on all of them just through the conversation to be honest already. But yeah, so execution, what comes to mind on that one?
I think it's what you were talking about before around it's all well and good having a beautiful plan and
Yeah.
a beautiful strategy, but it means nothing with
Mhm.
absolutely nothing without the execution side of it and
Yeah.
kind of real delivery capability is it's essential. It's essential. And I've just seen that throughout my career. It's a big balance in consulting, isn't it? And
Yeah.
consultants get criticized for beautiful slide decks without
Yeah.
seeing it through.
But the
But
rubber hitting the road as a transport metaphor there.
oh, what's the one? No plan survives first contact with the enemy.
Yeah. I feel like
Anyone
we're becoming like a caricature of podcast conversations now.
Okay, I've got another one. Is it Mike Tyson? Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. I think
There we go.
that was
Yeah. Which that brings us on to resilience, David.
that was it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think like a little bit of a, and again, as I said, I'm playing with these concepts myself, but resilience I would see as more individually to you as founder. And then the
Mm,
last one, sustainability, is almost like the resilience of the organization. So
mm,
I'll just frame that a little bit. So on resilience,
yeah.
have you ever been punched in the face? Within a business.
Metaphorically or literally, let's leave it there.
Yeah,
Well,
anything from your personal sort of perspective of resilience come to mind?
am I allowed to have a favorite in the playbook? Because this
Yeah.
is definitely my favorite. I think
Oh, me too. I've been living within resilience the last 2 to 3 years. So
yeah,
yeah, I love that.
yeah. I mean, resilience it is definitely one of my personal core values.
Yeah,
Right up there. I mean, I suppose if you'll forgive me again, getting a little bit esoteric and philosophical. I mean, like
I
life,
forgive
life,
you.
life is hard, right? By definition,
Yeah,
that's kind of the point of it, right? And I think it's a kind of Buddhist framing of that, which is like, yeah, life is hard. That's a definition. The suffering comes from kind of resistance to that reality,
yeah.
and ultimately like accepting that it's hard for me is like the core of resilience. And then you can
There's
crack,
something stoic about that as well, stoicism.
yeah, a
Yeah.
100%. Well, there's this. I wish I knew it in Latin, but there's a Stoic one, which is the obstacle becomes the way. You know,
Yes, Ryan Holiday wrote a book about that.
yeah,
A really good book.
which that's definitely been going around in my mind.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
last
yeah.
years,
Yeah.
like you
I mean,
say,
let's be honest, we could do an episode like on each of these points, couldn't we? Because there's so much depth that we could go in on each.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, is there like an example since starting Aura where you had I don't know, I don't like preempt your answer, but like just in a more contextual way of running Aura that you could speak to resilience.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, all of those things I've just said, all of those kind of esoteric things have a daily lived kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
example, you
And
know.
I'm not asking you to like dig any individuals out or anything.
No, it's cool, it's cool. But like, I mean, if it was easy, it would be boring, and
Yeah.
that's a key thing with Aura. We are like, it's tough, but we are having
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
I'm having fun with
Like
it.
forging a new industry,
It's
really.
definitely not boring. Yeah,
No.
and it's
Yeah.
definitely not easy. So,
Yeah.
I'd say
Would it be fair to say there is considerations that you have of like, the balance of like looking after yourself as well, like those types of ways of ensuring that whatever comes at you in the day job, running and growing a business, you're resilient to those challenges.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole kind of looking after your mental, physical, and spiritual health side of
Yeah, yeah.
things, and there's the kind of important bits around time away from the office, hobbies, space to think,
Sort of
space.
work-life balance becomes a bit banded around word, doesn't it? Work-life balance, but essentially, yeah, like it is having a bit of David that's not only aura.
Yeah, exactly. And like yesterday as a team, we sat down and we spoke about what is our individual and then collective approaches to problem solving. How
Yeah.
do we approach problems? And I think with problem we spoke about, and I think with problems you can get really caught in trying to fix it and just
Hmm.
desperately find that solution, which is very
Hmm.
like conscious. It's super conscious, but actually just putting that into your kind of unconscious for a bit, which
Yeah.
from a neuroscience perspective is like 70% of your brain at least. It's like by far the most powerful bit of your brain. You can solve things much more easily. So I think being willing to put things down and walk away from them is quite a useful tool
Yeah.
coming up against different challenges in
Yeah.
aura.
Kash is telling me that every day when I'm like on my phone at 9 p.m. She's like, put your phone away, leave it. I'm like, it's important, but is
Definitely.
it? Is it really? Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know that we have those conversations
Yeah,
at home.
yeah, yeah,
Right. And
yeah.
I think the flip side though is when you're watching TV, when you're having your dinner, sometimes that's when you get the sparks and
You
it
get the
clicks.
inspiration. Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Mm,
there's something about almost that like vision execution differential, like and so I don't just mean vision, but more your point of inspired creativity is hard when you are just in like meeting, email. So as you
mm.
say, when you switch off, those bigger ideas can often pop up more easily
I think it's when they do, for me anyway.
because there's space for them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
All right, influence, which I think for me that's kind of like the network and the ways to get the vision and the execution out more into the world. So it's sort of yeah, it's a lot about kind of network and the ability to affect the change you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely speaking to the expert here, so keen to hear what you think about
Oh,
this.
don't.
But I suppose it's kind of
Mhm.
a combination of authenticity, kind of connection and community, and how that comes together.
Yeah,
I mean, personally, I've always my approach to well relationships across any part of life. It's not necessarily about volume. It's not about numbers. It's about
mm,
finding where it's authentic and where it
yes,
works, and then
yeah,
really doubling down on that and really
yeah,
committing to that. And I think that works on a personal level, but on a business level,
yeah.
it's finding your community, finding your people, finding who you gel with. But you know how to do that far better than me. So yeah, from a
Yeah, and
oh,
all. So thank you for saying, David. And I think you've been smashing it within your network and your context of Aura. And I think just to give a personal share on the pod now, like with Purple Go, I know that I've come from the community with disabled people. That was the main, like when I ran Disability Horizons with Purple Go, the community, if you like, we need clients from big brands to spend their advertising budget. And so I partly referenced earlier to you of like, if you try to do it all in one go, you burn yourself out. But to your point now, if you try to be building deep relationships with every CMO at every brand, you're going to be a little bit crap at doing that because you just can't. You just can't. And I found that quite a lesson of exactly what you just said, that like fewer but authentic, true relationships are A, just more pleasant, but B, end up having a better business effect as well.
100%. Yeah. And
Yeah,
I think I think it takes something to be comfortable with that. Like
yeah.
social media, number of followers, number of likes.
Oh, it's
You're a kid. How many
relentless.
friends have you got at your birthday party? Like,
Yeah.
mission to view this sort of stuff at scale when personally I think that's the wrong way around.
Yeah. And I think just to briefly apply that pillar to aura is obviously like how to not just listen to disabled people as you spoke to, but then to communicate with, and that not just becoming a barrage of rent our vehicles,
Mm.
but to your point, building conversational engagement, where you're forever listening, but obviously you're still reaching more people. And the bottom line, there still needs to be a level of rentals for the business side to work. So I can imagine that's something that you're considering a lot about, how to do marketing and sales from a business perspective, but in an authentic, relationship-based way with the people that are looking for better transport solutions.
Yeah, you've got it, and I think maybe it's another one with kind of two sides to the coin, and the one is the constantly listening and talking to our customers,
Yeah,
and then the other side of the coin is having people in our team and in our company that have lived experience of
yeah,
disability, as disabled individuals themselves or as carers,
yeah,
and that's really really important for us.
yeah. Cool. And finally, sustainability, which I think for me was the sort of like when I started Purple Go, I was the sales and marketing team for a while. And then now we've got a whole team of people doing those functions. I still dip in and add value, but if I'm on holiday or whatever, that still carries on without me. And that's a very specific sales and marketing Purple Go example. And then obviously there's a into the future. I want Purple Goat to be a mainstay of the marketing industry because that our mission vision is around representation of disabled people in advertising.
Mm.
So it's sort of starting with me as a founder, but it's building something that runs without me and outlasts me. So just any thoughts on that and take it anywhere you want to go, but on the sustainability of Aura.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with the team and the people, and yeah,
It's huge, isn't it?
yeah, and we're like you are. We're incredibly fortunate to have some yeah, amazing people, and the thing that unites us time and time again is the values side of things.
Yeah,
And we're constantly thinking about our values as an organization. It's the vision, and then it's the value, the vision, the mission, and the values underpin it.
yeah.
And I think that the values bit is really key.
That's interesting. So values could be quite significant within that sustainability side.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
it's the glue that pulls the people together, I
Yeah.
think.
Can you
Uh,
say that in Latin, please?
let me get back to you on that one. Let me get back.
ChatGPT.
Yeah, let me get back to you on that one. So yeah, I think there's definitely that. I suppose one other thought that just came to mind while you were speaking, and I've been thinking about a lot recently. And there's a real in the journey of startups. I think a startup at the beginning, it's a project,
Yeah,
right? It's a project with one person, two people, three people committed to building a business, right? And
yeah,
there is a difference. There is a
yeah,
difference between an early stage startup and a business. A
yeah,
business is a machine, it's a model that you can put something in and
yeah,
reasonably expect a certain outcome or certain
yeah.
out from that. And you've obviously been on that incredible journey
And
with
that transition is hard because you
yeah,
you you can't let go of too many things in one go because there are risks associated.
yeah,
But if you hold on to everything, you stifle the potential of the business. And
exactly.
that's such a hard balance.
Yeah, some tension
No,
perhaps.
tension, yeah.
Yeah.
What's that in life? Anyway, I'll shut up now.
I said I don't know any. Maybe
Um,
know a little bit, but anyway, we won't go
And
there.
that I think that's been like for me very that values part. We all know people like Branson often talks about hire good people and get out of the way and all of that, but like there's still a bit of a nuance and a even like a tangibility of how. And I think your point on values would be not the only, but a strong lever in achieving that.
Yeah, exactly. Like an essential lever, not the
Yeah,
only lever, but an essential one. And I think it's just a build on Branson's hire good people and get out of the way. Well, how do you define a good person? It's
yeah.
very subjective, isn't it? Like,
Mhm.
and I would say the way to define a good person is values. That's the
Yeah,
start, definitely.
I agree. I agree. Well, unfortunately, we're coming to the end. Both we've hit the last pillar, but we are getting shorter on time as well. I mean, really, most of all, just I love our chats, and it's been great to get it down in a recording. And I think we've both been able to show your journey and story, but also those broader takeaways for other social entrepreneurs and social activists, which is yeah, doubly awesome. And really, I give it to you a couple of minutes of any sort of final thoughts. I mean, feel free to sort of anything future of Aura that you haven't mentioned, any call outs for, I mean, there'll be different types of audiences watching this content, I would think, but you know, anywhere people can support your mission and vision to get involved. But yeah, the floor is yours just for to kind of round us off.
Not in Latin.
Yeah, not in Latin. Not this time. The next time we're going to both speak only in Latin.
I'm sure there's some AI that can help with that. Yeah,
I bloody hope so.
yeah, exactly. No, I suppose just firstly and foremostly, just thanks for having me on this conversation. Really, really enjoyed it. I think the playbook is incredibly valuable, and I can't wait to hear more conversations you have with people and kind of the kind of sparks and ideas and insights that come out of that.
Mhm.
Um, in terms of anyone listening to this podcast, any of this that's resonated, I'd really encourage people to get in touch. How do people do that? Well, we've got our website, which has got contact details on it. We're on social media as well. We're doing more and more, I suppose, in the digital space. We're sharing more about our journey on the Meta platform, on Facebook, on TikTok, well, on Instagram, and then also TikTok. So yeah, give us a follow, check it out. There's some really I think kind of fun content that gets to the heart of what we're about. So yeah, I would yeah, just encourage anybody that's resonated with this, give us a follow and do get in touch.
Amazing. Thank you, David. And yeah, I'll put a couple of the links on the sort of show notes as I've heard other podcasters mention before. But yeah, no, I will put the links on the show notes. And yeah, I think we definitely covered everything we plan to. I think just back to that vision, mission, and the power of it. It's so clear what's going on with the transport gap, the potential for everyone. You know, it's been a big thing for me. It's not only starting with as a disabled person, this is not as good as it could be. That's annoying. Make it better for me. I'm saying that a bit like tongue in cheek way as well. But the point is that when inclusion benefits everyone, including disabled people, but like we said, there's business opportunities here, there's government economic opportunities as well. That's the sweet spot because then it's not just only disabled people quite rightly wanting inclusion, but it's you're more likely to get there when everyone else sees the benefits of everyone as well as, of course, it's the right thing to do. And so, yeah, I think that accessibility gap is a great way of showing the cost to society and the potential gains if we sort it out, as someone said. And yeah, obviously, as you say, focusing on the trips and the wheelchair accessible vehicles at the moment is a great way to get traction. But I've got a feeling as it evolves, there will be lots of opportunities for Aura to participate in as well.
Yeah, I'm convinced of that and excited about that as well. And yeah, as I said in there, we're kind of we're having a lot of fun with this.
Yeah,
Yeah, looking forward to speaking with you more about that.
absolutely. Thanks so much, David.
Cheers, Martin.
Catch up soon.